Tonight, a mother's torture after her son lost his life in the Cameron House fire. Simon Midgley and his partner Richard Dyson died in the blaze at the five-star hotel. A fatal accident inquiry is underway.
Also making the headlines, police launched an investigation at Glasgow's Queen Elizabeth Hospital. Martin Weldon died after allegedly being given the wrong medication.
In sport, as PSV arrive, Giovanni van Bronckhorst says Rangers are aiming to become Champions League group stage regulars.
And Scotland's first Deaf Festival gets underway with a host of events, including a rave. I'm Emma Cameron in Edinburgh.
And I'm John Mackay in Glasgow. This is the STV News at 6. Good evening. It's taken almost 5 years, but the fatal accident inquiry into a blaze at one of Scotland's top hotels is underway. Simon Midgley and his partner Richard Dyson died in the blaze at Cameron House in 2017. In a statement read out in court, Simon's mother described how she's tortured every day by the thought of him trapped in the building trying to get out.
The hotel operators have already been fined £500,000. This inquiry is not to establish blame, but to look at issues around fire and guest safety. Our chief reporter Sharon Frew was in court.
This inquiry began with a minute's silence for the two lives lost in the blaze at Cameron House. Simon Midgley and Richard Dyson were described by Simon's mother as soulmates. Simon, a freelance travel journalist living in London, had gone with his partner to the luxury resort on Loch Lomond to write an article for the Evening Standard. His mother, Jane, said he had been so happy. In a statement read out to the court, she said she still can't comprehend how it was all taken away in the blink of an eye.
In her victim impact statement, Jane Midgley said, "Every waking hour I lived through what happened that day, seeing Simon's face. The thought of how he must have felt when he was trapped in that building trying to get out tortures me." She said, "He must have been so frightened, and I feel tremendous guilt that I was not there to help him."
It has already been established that the fire in December 2017 started after a night porter, Christopher O'Malley, put a bag of ashes from an open fire into a cupboard that contained kindling and newspapers. Night manager Darren Robinson is the first witness to this inquiry. He described attempts to try and find the source of the blaze after the first warning alarm sounded. He said smoke was then seen coming from a cupboard. When the door was opened by the night porter, flames came roaring out.
The night manager then described how he went outside but left behind the checklist of guests and the fire bag. He said he used his own mobile phone to call the fire service. In a 999 call played to the court, Mr Robinson could be heard speaking to the operator and also shouting to guests. He was heard repeatedly saying, "The hotel is on fire, please leave the hotel." The operator told him, "Get everybody out." Mr Robinson replied, "I'm trying my best."
The witness said he was aware people were stuck in room 10, a couple with a baby, and he had to stop a group of male guests from entering the burning building in the attempt to reach them. The family was then rescued by firefighters. The inquiry heard it was only once a printout of guests had been obtained and a roll call had been completed that it was discovered that the guests from Suite 8, Simon and Richard, were missing. Firefighters entered room 8 via the window, but no one was there. The men were later found in a nearby stairwell. They had died from the inhalation of smoke and fire gases. The inquiry, which is expected to last 3 weeks, will continue tomorrow. Sharon Frew, STV News.
Police have been called in to investigate the death of a patient at Scotland's largest hospital. The Procurator Fiscal was informed after Martin Weldon died at the Queen Elizabeth University Hospital in Glasgow, where he'd been receiving treatment. Well, our reporter Susan Ripple is here with more details. So, Susan, what can you tell us?
Well, first of all, obviously a really tragic situation for the family here. It was on Friday when 35-year-old Martin Weldon died at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital. Now, he'd been there for some time in intensive care, and that was following a diabetic hypo, and that's essentially when your sugar levels in your blood become too low. Now, as a result of that, that had led to a number of complications, including a severe brain injury, and he'd been been having to learn to do things like walking and talking again. Now, the family say that he was improving, but obviously things drastically changed on Friday. The family believe he died as a result of staff negligence, and STV News understands this was after allegedly being given a lethal dose of another patient's medication by mistake.
So, Susan, what are the health board saying?
Well, they're not really saying a huge amount, and that is because the police are now investigating the circumstances of Martin's death. A spokesperson has passed on their deepest condolences to the family in that they notified the Procurator Fiscal immediately. Because of the investigation, they're not commenting any further, but they say they're working with authorities and the family while things progress.
Susan, thank you.
The controversial comedian Jerry Sadowitz has insisted he had no hint of anything going wrong after a fringe show which led to his next night at the venue being cancelled. The Pleasance called off his gig at the Edinburgh International Conference Centre, claiming it had received an unprecedented number of complaints. Here's our senior reporter Gordon Cree.
The promotional posters for Jerry Sadowitz's show remain in pride of place outside the venue today. He'd been due to perform 2 nights in Pleasance at EICC. But after Friday's gig, the plug was pulled. A statement from the Pleasance cited extreme racism, sexism, homophobia and misogyny. A number of other comedians have leapt to his defence.
Jerry Sadowitz is being called racist and homophobic. You know, he's definitely not those things. Obviously, the stuff that he does, when you see it on the printed page or, you know, if you heard it in a courtroom, it would sound awful. That's why it has to be seen in the actual performance to understand how it works. He says horrific, terrible things, but it's really funny.
It's fair to say the entry about Jerry Sadowitz's show in the official Fringe programme leaves you in no doubt as to what it's about. It says it's 18 plus. The show's called Not For Anyone, and it has references to doing less hate-fuelled swearing and focusing more on faux liberal pish.
Neither the Pleasance nor Sadowitz would do interviews today. On social media, he said his act contains a lot of silly, exaggerated irony and nonsense, and that the show is what it is for those who enjoy it, and said the rest should stick to carry-on films. But this comedian told me it's important to consider venue staff.
You know, the people that have to work these shows, often people of colour, often people outside the sort of societal norm of sex and gender identity, you know, probably don't really care that much how ironic use of racial slurs or indecent exposure really is.
Among festival goers today, some reflection on where the line is.
I think comedy should be able to talk about controversial issues. I think it's just the way it's done, and I think the intention behind it is really important.
Personally, I think there are boundaries to what you can call comedy, but then we're also hearing about free speech. You know, don't stop people expressing their views, and if he makes money out of it, I personally wouldn't go to his show from what I've heard.
It can be offensive, yes, but I guess there are things that you really shouldn't say even amongst friends, and certainly not in public.
If you want to know where exactly he's playing...
I understand supporters of Sadowitz are making efforts to find an alternative venue so his cancelled show can take place, and his tour is due to visit a number of towns across Scotland in October. Gordon Cree, STV News, Edinburgh.
Other stories across Scotland, and the Scottish Police Federation says a deal has been agreed over officers' pay. A 5% pay increase has been negotiated after an initial offer of £565 was rejected. Officers withdrew goodwill after the two sides had previously failed to reach an agreement.
Elsewhere, council workers have rejected a 3.5% pay increase offer from local authorities. Strike action by waste collectors is now set to begin in Edinburgh on Thursday and then roll out across the country. Meanwhile, there's set to be more disruption on the railways, with the RMT due to walk out on Thursday and Saturday in an ongoing pay dispute with Network Rail.
The UK has become the first country to approve a dual COVID vaccine. It'll tackle both the original COVID virus and the Omicron variant. Moderna says doses could be supplied in the next few weeks and be available as an autumn booster jab.
Scotland is the first country in the world to protect the right to free period products. As of today, councils and education providers are legally required to make sanitary products available without charge. A year since the Taliban returned to power in Afghanistan, we've been speaking to some of those who made it to Scotland. They were among the tens of thousands of people fleeing the country and who are now trying to rebuild their lives.
Back in their home country, aid workers say it's immersed in a humanitarian and rights crisis and more help is urgently needed. Louise Hosey reports.
August the 15th, 2021. Extraordinary scenes at Kabul airport as Afghans try to cling to departing planes in a desperate bid to get out of their country. The Taliban's return to power was as swift as it was sudden, upending the lives of ordinary people overnight. Frishta managed to escape from Kabul with her family. She now lives in Stornoway after being helped by the Scottish-based charity she worked for. The 29-year-old counts her blessings every day. But as night falls, the trauma returns.
We're away from my family. We left our job. We left the life that we had. Everything's changed. Still, we are thinking about that day, and it comes every night to our dream.
Through his work as an interpreter with the British Army, Burhan knew he would be a target for the Taliban. He was forced into hiding with his family before being evacuated in the final days of the mass airlift. Initially, they lived in a hotel and are now based in Aberdeen after a stranger moved by their plight offered them a home.
When I entered the military aircraft, then I thought that I am free now. I feel freedom. It was like from hell to heaven. The worst point is also that you are losing everything you gain, like losing your house, losing your family, everything just in a blink of an eye.
UNICEF says Afghanistan is in the midst of a catastrophic humanitarian and child rights crisis.
We're deeply concerned about this. We're advocating every day with de facto authorities to get girls back into school and to give them the civil liberties that is their right.
The UK government's response to Afghanistan has come in for criticism in terms of both speed and support.
What they're facing is no safe and legal routes to come and seek protection here in the UK. The ARAP, the ACRS schemes are all dormant.
The Home Office says it's welcomed more than 21,000 Afghans in 1 year under their schemes. It says it continues to stand by those who helped with its efforts in the country. Frishta says she doesn't regret the choice she made in leaving Afghanistan, but while her head tells her it was the right thing to do, her heart will always belong to her homeland.
As a daughter, I want to go back home, to be with my family and to be in my own country. But as a mother, it's difficult for me to go back home.
Louise Hosey, STV News.
A Scottish taxi driver who was forced to leave his family behind after fleeing Afghanistan says every day is a black day for his family and homeland. Jan Mohammed Ahmedsai has worked in Glasgow for almost 2 decades and was visiting his heavily pregnant wife and family when the Taliban coup took place.
The family almost made it to the UK with their passports but got separated from their bags and legal documents when a suicide bomb exploded in Kabul. Vanessa Taff reports.
Every day is a black day for me in my life since I've been away from my family and from my kids.
It's been a full year of longing for his family to be reunited. Jan is a British citizen and these are some of the last emails he received from the UK government inviting him to the airport to flee Afghanistan.
We've seen dead bodies. My kids are still suffering. My wife is still suffering from that. They nearly killed us, but luckily we are still alive. Now the FCD Home Office, they don't care. We are being ignored. We are being forgotten by them.
He's had to leave behind his wife, 4 sons and newborn daughter in Pakistan. Jan's working extra shifts to cover their rent and expenses as well as his own in Glasgow.
If I have to travel back to Afghanistan and try to apply for their new passports through the Taliban's regime, so it's quite dodgy, it's quite hard for me to do that. I will never go back to Afghanistan while the Talibans are at power. I don't want to risk my life, or I don't want to risk the life of my kids and children just for some documents. The Home Office is not replying back. They're not saying like a thing.
The Home Office say they are prioritising those who are eligible, like Jan's family, and that they're aiming to resettle 20,000 people.
The stress I'm taking every day I mean, the lack of words with my customers, and it's hard for me. Every day is hard for me now. So I'm struggling to be happy.
Jan hopes there's an end to his painful separation and wants the government to urgently prioritise his family reunion. Vanessa Taff, STV News, Glasgow.
Everyone from prison staff to GPs should get involved in the fight to end homelessness. That's a call from the charity Crisis, which says early action is the best way to support those who need it most. A new report published today highlights projects which help people before they reach crisis point.
With the cost of living on the rise, there are fears that more people could be forced out of their homes in the months ahead. Campaigners say making sure support is available across Scotland is more important than ever. Kay Nicholson reports.
Niamh spent a month living with Gordon after a relationship breakdown in her family home. This was a sanctuary, a safe space. The support helped her come to terms with becoming homeless at just 16.
Oh, big kisses.
Obviously felt different, but it felt really good and felt really relaxing that I found a place that I could call a home. He would ask how my day was, he would always listen. It was really nice, we had a good communication, a good bond. It definitely gives me time to think about my future.
The Night Stop service is run by youth homelessness charity The Rock Trust. Hosts get involved on a voluntary basis. Niamh was referred after speaking to her school.
From sort of the first night to when they leave, I see a massive difference in them, and I take great pride in the fact that I've managed to, one, prevent them perhaps going somewhere a little bit less desirable, like a bed and breakfast or a hostel, but two, they've got a bit of self-confidence.
It's a really scary time for them, so we just want to come in and just support them immediately and prevent them from feeling scared and worried, and just have them stay with a really lovely volunteer.
Night Stop is among 75 projects highlighted in a new guide to preventing homelessness. It says that all parts of the public sector can do their bit to stop people reaching crisis point.
From prisons to GPs, health visitors and many others can do something to prevent homelessness, and we've seen so many great examples of that. We put them all together today in a guide that we're launching because we want to share that good practice, but also get behind an effort to make homelessness prevention part of the culture of how we tackle the issue in Scotland.
And it comes in advance of our homelessness prevention duties. All public organisations will have a duty to ask and act in order to prevent homelessness happening.
Niamh is now in supported accommodation and she starts a childcare course at college next month. Now she's found stability, she's feeling positive about the future. Kay Nicholson, STV News, Livingston.
The 16-year-old Glasgow youth has gone back to his roots by raising money to pay for football strips at a primary school in Ethiopia, where his dad was taught as a child. He wants to build long-term links with the community his dad called home. Emma Maxwell reports.
Enjoying a kickabout, this Ethiopian team are wearing brand new kits, which have made a 6,500 mile journey from Giffnock. And it's all because of 16-year-old Emmanuel.
At the start of this year, I wanted to do a fundraiser for a football team in Addis-Ababa, where my dad is from, because I've been going to Ethiopia since I was quite young and seeing the kids, and they don't really have the proper kits or proper football boots, and I felt like I could raise some stuff and see where it went and then give them the kits.
Emmanuel hopes this is just the start. He's planning to go back to help with coaching. His fundraising has helped him connect his Scottish upbringing with his Ethiopian identity.
It's a big thing that I'm in this sort of position in Scotland and trying to use my sort of position to benefit the people who didn't come to this country like me and grow up here like me, and you can tell by the kids how much it meant to them as well.
Emmanuel's love of football began when he joined his local club in Giffnock, and they're helping support his backing for the kids in the Ijeri team.
It is something that the club have been involved in for a long time, sending kit off to Africa, and Emmanuel's been one of my players for probably over 10 years now. To help somewhere else that doesn't have the facilities and have the ability to buy strips and stuff like that, I mean, it's just a great thing to be able to do.
It also means a lot to Emmanuel's dad. Growing up in Addis Alum, he knows all too well the difference this money makes.
I remember there was, in sport periods, there's only one ball for the whole school. And so if you are lucky to touch the ball, that is a big thing. They now know, and they have got family, friend, supporter from Scotland and Giffnock. I think if we continue to support them, we may find someone who's playing for Celtic or Rangers.
So you saw them here first. It's over to the Old Firm to make some offers. Emma Maxwell, STV News, Glasgow.
OK, staying with the sport, and here's Rama.
Get your fill of the action. STV Sport, sponsored by Papa John's Pizza.
Good evening. Giovanni Van Bronckhorst says reaching the group stage of the Champions League has to be Rangers' target every year. The Ibrox side face PSV Eindhoven in the first leg of the playoff tie tomorrow night. Progress will earn the club around £40 million. This is the team that stands between Rangers and a place in the Champions League. PSV Eindhoven, managed by Dutch legend Ruud van Nistelrooy, arrived in Glasgow with a squad of international players. Van Nistelrooy's former teammate is tasked with getting the Ibrox side to the group stage for the first time in 12 years.
No doubt in my mind that every year we are involved in European football. We want to be part of Champions League. That has to be our goal, and that's why we work hard. Doesn't mean we'll play every year Champions League, but I think the desire and we want to show everyone is to be in that tournament.
Rangers maintained their 100% winning start in the league with a 4-0 victory over St Johnstone at the weekend. Antonio Cholak scored for the third game in a row. And the striker says he's hungry for more goals.
Doesn't matter, is it St Johnstone or then now tomorrow PSV. I want always score. Yes, I'm hungry. I want to work, and this is what I did all my life, and this is also what I want to do tomorrow. I just want to be successful and of course scoring goals.
Ryan Kent and James Sands return to the squad for tomorrow night's first leg. Now, after Celtic put 5 goals past Kilmarnock, Ange Postecoglou says there's still more to come from his team. Jota and Georgios Giakoumakis were amongst the scorers as the champions moved back to the top of the table ahead of Rangers on goal difference. Premiership teams are welcoming a new plan aiming to double clubs' income by 2029. The new approach comes after a review into the Scottish game made recommendations to raise broadcast money and other revenue streams. SPFL clubs share £28 million a year at the moment. They intend to drive that up to £50 million. Great Britain's Davis Cup coach Leon Smith says Andy Murray is relishing the prospect of returning to play on home soil. The former world number 1 joins Cameron Norrie, Dan Evans and Joe Salisbury in the squad for the group stages in Glasgow next month. Smith says it's a huge boost for everyone to have Murray back involved.
He was really clear with me that he wants to be part of this, which was brilliant to hear, because obviously the way his last few years have gone, you'd think maybe he's got to look after his body in certain ways, and some weeks he would miss. He was nailed on to play this, and that was really important for him. And he knows we've got a good shot in this, and I think for him to come back to Scotland is always going to be something special.
And that, folks, is all your sport tonight. Playing as always on our website, stv.tv/sport. I'll see you again tomorrow night.
Get your fill of the action. STV Sport, sponsored by Papa John's Pizza.
Sean has the weather and some more familiar colours on his chart.
A light drizzle is coming in from the west. TUI Blue Hotels sponsor STV Weather.
Well, along with the cooler air, we've also got quite a bit of rain in this breakdown as well, especially across central and eastern parts. That's where the bulk of the rain will be through tonight, drifting away south and eastwards during tomorrow. And traditionally, of course, we expect most of our rain to fall through the summer holidays, and then the weather gets better as kids go back. But actually, we've had good summer holidays, and the breakdown has come in time for many of the kids going back to school. Now, through tonight, central and eastern areas will still hang on to the rain, particularly across north and south Lanarkshire eastwards. Some heavy bursts through the night. Now, temperatures overnight 14 to 16 degrees, so staying on that warmer side. But we'll have a look at tomorrow afternoon's temperatures in just a wee second. But remember those temperatures, 14 to 16 overnight tonight. Now, tomorrow we've got a lot of cloud to start the day especially, and across eastern areas, Falkirk, Clackmannanshire, South Lanarkshire, the borders, Dumfries and Galway, that's where the bulk of the rain will be tomorrow morning. That clears away into the afternoon. It should start to turn a wee bit drier and brighter. Top temperatures, there we go, 15 to 17 degrees. That's only about a degree up on where we'll be tonight. So an awful lot fresher than the 25s, 28s we had through the weekend. And thankfully, feeling a bit better. Not as oppressive as it was through the weekend. Brighter skies and drier weather on Wednesday, especially around coastal areas. That's where we'll see the best of the sunshine. Temperatures staying roughly the same through most of this week. Some heavy rain on Thursday later on, and also on Saturday. Bye-bye.
TUI Blue Hotels. Sponsor STV Weather.
And finally this evening, Scotland's first Deaf Festival has opened in the capital as part of the Edinburgh Fringe.
The week-long event celebrates deaf culture, language and heritage with an amazing mix of shows and even a deaf rave. Here's Polly Bartlett.
This is Nadia's 8th Fringe, but it's the first that she's truly felt a part of.
I felt something was missing, but for the Edinburgh Deaf Festival it's so exciting because this is my world. I am so proud. I am showing off about this festival. We are here. We are the same as you. We're no longer hiding.
Nadia's Cabaret is one of many shows this week taking place for the Edinburgh Deaf Festival. It features everything from comedy and theatre to children's shows and magic. The highlight of the festival is this, a deaf rave with Laser Lights deaf DJs and BSL performers.
I always expected that deaf people would be here, but this time, you know, the very first show, I think there were 50 deaf and 50 hearing people. It was 50-50. That was so exciting. They were laughing at the same time.
That's Edinburgh Castle. As well as putting on their own programme of events, festival organisers Deaf Action are providing support and interpreters across the wider Fringe network.
We have had lots of requests for interpreters. So much more than we expected. It's very, very exciting. I'm amazed that some deaf people have come along and said, I want to see a specific show on a date. Can we get an interpreter? We've worked with the show, we've worked with the Fringe Festival to enable that to happen.
The Edinburgh Deaf Festival is taking place here at the Deaf Action headquarters. There's music, performances and even a bar, so it really is worth a visit before it ends on the 19th of August. Polly Bartlett, STV News in Edinburgh.
Well, that's all from us tonight. The late bulletin is at 10:30.
From all of us, thank you for watching. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Bye-bye.